Alright guys, you know what it is. It's your Popboy, ready to do business. It's time to get a realistic, balanced, just a normal shot chart, shot distribution, whatever you want to call it from the CPU. And most of all, we gotta fix the 3-point attempts from the CPU because, man, it's just painfully, pathetically unrealistic. As most of us know, I mean, could 2K have gotten this any more wrong, by the way? I mean, the number one trend in the NBA for the last several years has been more and more 3-point attempts. But somehow, the people at 2K, they seem to be the only people in the world who don't know that. They program their game to have teams take like 9 3-pointers in the entire freaking game, man. Whatever. Brace yourself, hold on to your hats. There are going to be some pretty drastic adjustments to a lot of these tendency sliders. And let's just go ahead and start with the biggest one, the most obvious one, and that's a 3-point. So we're going to take this thing all the way up to 90 freaking 7. And you know what? This adjustment alone is still not enough. So right here at the top, we're going to want to take inside shots down to 20. We're going to come to close shots. We're going to bring this one all the way down to 22. I know this seems drastic here, guys, but I'm telling you, this thing was a bitch. Let's come to mid-range shots. Now, we all know that the mid-range is kind of going away in modern NBA basketball. And you know what? This is one area where 2K actually wasn't oblivious. They seem to be aware of that trend. So they programmed this pretty close to right on. I would just take it down just a little bit, down to 48. Let's come down to post shots, another area where 2K just whiffed with the programming. I mean, teams do not, you hardly ever see teams play that way anymore, where they just park somebody's ass on the block and throw it to them and let him go to work. But yeah, 19, you won't see teams trying to post guys who really never post in real life. So putting it at 19 will take away a lot of the unrealistic things like that. But on the other hand, if you play a team that has a dominant post scorer like Karl Anthony Towns, somebody like that, he'll still take a decent amount of post shots. It's just not going to be like an overwhelming amount like we're in the 90s or something. Alright, but let's move on to the other tendency sliders we're going to do. They do sort of, in a way, influence the type of shot that the CPU is going to take, but it doesn't necessarily determine it. That's the best way I can put it. So like, for example, this one, attack the basket. If we put this thing up really high, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to be taking all layups, trying to drive and finish at the rim, because of course you can attack the basket and draw the defense and kick it out for a 3. So we're going to want to put this one at 56. That'll get them to try to drive about as much as they do in real life. Look for post players is a similar one. A higher setting will raise the likelihood of a post shot a little bit, but not necessarily that much. Because of course they could kick it back out, they could cut off of the post, they could do a lot of different things to play through the post without taking a post shot. We all know this. But what I will do is put this down at 35. I did compare this with, I found some pretty detailed stats on post entry passes. 35 will match it up pretty close to real NBA. So next one, throw alley-oops. The number of alley-oops attempted is a lot more dependent on the personnel than it is the offensive system or the coach's scheme. Okay, a perfect example is like the Spurs. Typically, you wouldn't see the Spurs throw a ton of alley-oops, but because they have DeRozan, you'll see them throw more alley-oops up to him than they would otherwise. So really, when I was testing this, I had to really kind of look at the teams that do have somebody like that and try to get a realistic number of lobs for them, because that's really who it's going to affect. And I found that 55 is pretty much right on. Alright, so the next one, attempt dunks. I don't see too much wrong with the amount of dunk attempts. The numbers came out just barely too low compared to real life, so just a very slight increase, not a big deal, but I take it to 51 just to bump it up just a tad. Alright, so let's come to the next one, attempt putbacks. This was not the same story. Now, the putback attempts in 2K are too low, just unrealistic. You get some here and there, but it's not enough. So to fix this, we're taking this one up to 63. And you know what? I wanted to put it higher to really truly match it up more to real life. but I didn't, and this this kind of thing is why. I don't know. This is just one example. There's just some goofy ass shit that happens with tip-ins, with putback attempts. So I raised it to 63 to get a more realistic amount, but we don't want to have too much of this kind of thing come out. So that's why I stopped there. Alright, so the only other tendency slider that relates to shot distribution is down here at the bottom, backdoor cuts. And what I found is they do tend to kind of bomb downhill at the rim too much. They force too many backdoor cuts when they're not really there. And that kind of takes away from the spacing that you would normally see from an NBA offense. So that's why we're going to take this down to 41. They'll take the backdoor cuts when the opportunity presents itself, but they'll just use a little more discretion now. So it'll keep that normal spacing of the offense more intact. And pretty much all these sliders, let's come back up here to the top, pretty much all these are going to be just for the CPU. Obviously, because these are gameplay sliders, so we don't need to set these ones here for the user because we're actually playing the game, so we can determine what we're going to run, what types of shots we're going to take, etc, etc. Now, there are a couple exceptions. A couple of these we are going to want to set for the user side as well, just because they affect the AI teammates on the user team. One of those is attempt putbacks, because sometimes the AI teammates on the user team will tip it in, or they'll kind of go up and start a putback and you can press to finish it yourself. So we want them to do that a realistic amount, so we're going to want to set this to the same setting as the CPU side, 63. And then the only other one is backdoor cuts. We're going to want to put this to 41 for the user side as well. Of course, we want the AI teammates on the user side to make the appropriate amount of backdoor cuts, keep the spacing of the offense intact, everything we just talked about for the CPU side. But otherwise, the rest of them are just for the CPU. And all these numbers, by the way, are going to be the same for any difficulty you play on, because tendency sliders are not a matter of difficulty, they're just a matter of making it realistic. And you can see here some examples of some of the results that I've gotten. Look what we got going on. We got actual X's and circles out on the three-point line. Holy shit. And pretty much every team I played was at least attempting somewhere in the mid-20s. You see the Rockets there. They took a shit ton just like they should, just like they do in real life. I mean, of course, the numbers are going to vary some based on the team that you're playing against, how you're defending them. And obviously, coaches and players are still going to be true to themselves to a certain degree, but we want that. Okay, but at the same time, we'll get a lot more realistic results overall with these settings. Okay, so plug them in. Of course, guys, get in the comments and let me know how it's going for you. Let me know what you're getting. I mean, I am human, but I'm always going to work with you guys. I'll always put in the effort, try to make things better for you if you let me know what you're experiencing. And I think that helps everybody else as a whole. That's what it's all about. So please hit me up in the comments with whatever. Now, of course, we're going to have more coming up. We're going to get back to the defensive settings next time, so look out for that. And if you are new, subscribe to the channel, then you can hit your notifications on after that and keep up on everything I learn, because we ain't gonna stop. So I thank you for watching, and I hope you come on back here with me next time on 2K with the Popboy.